Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Meg.
And today we are covering the Earth Abundance expansion. This is a prototype. Well, to be very clear here, there's a few things going on. We have the
There's a few things going on.
We have the Earth base game over here. We have the Earth Abundance expansion. This is not a prototype. This is a prototype. I believe I've covered Earth on the channel already. You can check out a full review if you want that. You haven't, so I may get into your thoughts a bit on the Earth base game.
I have not.
And then we'll get into our thoughts on the expansion. But a few things you'll dive into it. I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. And this part over here is a prototype, rules, components, subject to change. This part is not. And it's all mixed together, so good luck figuring that out. Well, we'll get into it. So, let's go into a brief idea of what Earth is. I'll cover the very quick highlight of Earth. Again, you can check out my full review if you want more information or whatnot, or a ton of other content out there. It's a very popular game. But the general...
And happy shout out, it is on BGA.
It is on BGA. I thought you were going to say it's Earth Day. It's Earth Day.
Well, I'm not sure.
Depending when you watch this video. But the campaign is going live on Earth Day as well. And yes, it is on BGA. So, general idea of Earth is going to be a tableau building game where you're basically building out a 16-card grid. It's a 4x4 grid of cards that are going to your own personal display, and that's going to be one of the game end triggers in the game. But the basic idea is you have tons of cards, an absolute ton of cards over here, and we just have, again, a little bit of a smorgasbord setup, not the whole picture. You can have your own personal player board, which gives you some specific cards to start with. You can have actions you're taking every round, and the way the actions work in the game is every time you take an action, you get a stronger effect of that action, and other players all benefit. So everyone's always getting things whether it's their turn or not. You want to be paying attention to which actions players are taking in the game. And those actions are going to be a combination of drawing cards, playing cards. It's going to be the first action, lets you draw and play cards into your tableau. The second action is going to give you dirt, which is the main currency you have. Is also going to let you compost cards. A big way to get extra points is putting a bunch of cards down to your compost. You'll be getting 1 point per card, and you can compost sometimes from the main deck and sometimes from your hand. The third action is going to give you little, I think they're called sprouts. I'm not entirely sure of some of the terminology here, but I believe sprouts over here that are going to go on certain cards. So if we find a card that has it over here, you can see this card, for example, has 2 spots to put little sprouts on that card over there. So you're going to get extra points for those sprouts. And then it also gives you some dirt. And the last action is going to give you more card draw and let you plant little trees onto your card. So again, we have a little spot on a card where you can plant trees and get various points, which again will give you 1 point per segment, although a completion bonus if you get the rest. That's kind of the general idea. You're placing out these cards. Cards will be point values. They give you different attributes. You're going to be mindful of the end game scoring, both personally and on the common board. This board over here is going to give you a bunch of ways to get end-game points or in-game points for the first player to achieve these 4 objectives. And then, well, not just the first. Sorry, I should be more specific. You can get 15, 11, 8, 6, or 5, depending at what point you finish one of these objectives. So, for example, having 20 dirt in your reserve. Hold onto your dirt and spending it, you'll get points as well. And then there's end-game cards. You're going to have 2 public end-game cards, 1 private end-game card, and combine all that in addition to the points you have, and that's basically going to be how you play Earth. It's a lot of cards, a lot of card play, a lot of trying to figure out the right combination of how everything fits together. And then there's the expansion. The expansion to Earth is going to introduce a few things. The first thing it's going to introduce is going to introduce a 6th player. So if you want to play Earth with 6 players, as opposed to the 5 that the base game will allow, then you'll need the expansion to do so. It also is going to introduce new cards. In general, new cards of all the various types. You're going to have new starting cards for these over here, new goal cards, new objective cards. You have a new stack of cards mixed into the deck as well. So you just have a bunch of new cards. If you wanted more card variety, that's going to be a thing you have. And then lastly, it introduced seeds. Seeds are going to be a new token. You're going to start the game with 1. You're also going to have ways to get new tokens over here. There's a new overlay that you're going to be able to put onto your player boards over here that give you new ways to get seed tokens, and they can be traded in for a variety of things. Some of them are just resources. One of the ones that's a new thing is the idea of basically requesting a card. You specify a card type that you want, whether it's about the cost, whether it's about a certain attribute that a card has, and you say, I'm going to trade this seed, and I'm going to draw cards until I get that card, and you just start going through the deck until you get that kind of empowered draw action from those seeds. And that's basically what the new expansion is adding. Which means, with all that out of the way, let's talk about your thoughts on the base game. Because I don't even know your thoughts on the base game. I've played it a few times now. How do you feel about Earth?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, the more I've been thinking about it, because I know I've been giving ratings now, I don't know if I'm ready for Earth yet. I really enjoyed it when I first played it, but I think for me, once I understood it, I want it to deliver just a little bit more.
Okay.
And I think that... Should I not get into the expansion yet?
No, expansion's last.
Okay.
Expansion's last.
Well...
After your thoughts on the base game, we'll do the expansion.
Okay. I was going to say, I think the expansion fixed one of the things.
However you want to structure it.
Okay. But... Yeah, so for me, I think that the action selection where you're not only choosing what you're going to be doing, but it's going to give everyone around you that action as well. And you have to kind of decide what you want other players to have, because sometimes you're setting them up to be able to play cards and get more points because you're giving them the things that they need, like dirt. So I do think it's very clever with that puzzle. I think, yeah, I do feel like there is more that you can do, because not only, as Alex said, when you go to those actions, you do that action, but if you have any cards in play that are the same color, you also get to trigger all of those abilities for the cards in your tableau. And I think that I need a little bit more time to feel that synergy. I think I haven't yet figured out a really satisfying gameplay. I think I see the puzzle, but I haven't been able to really put it together myself yet.
Yeah, not that so much my own thoughts. My own thoughts on Earth, I think it's a very well done game. For me, I found specifically the term, the language or the term I use, not term, the feeling I give about a lot of these tableau building games is, to me, I think the thing that often makes the difference as to whether I love them or whether I just enjoy them is often comes down to whether specific cards feel like, I'm like, oh, that card, I wanted that card. In games like Everdell or Terraforming Mars that I love in these types of games, I find that I do have that feeling of certain cards. I'm like, ooh, that card works well for my puzzle. Versus in games like Wingspan or Earth, that matter, as much as I enjoy the puzzle, I rarely have that sense of that one card really did something for me, and that kind of pulls me a bit from those highs like you talked about. Like, I like what it's doing, but the highs are a little bit missing for me. So I enjoy it, I like it, it's a good game, but for me it's not as up there as it is for some others.
Yeah, I would say, almost to describe it, you're making the best choice at the time, and you're not hoping for something specific.
Yes, that's
You're
a good way
never
of
like,
putting
I
it.
really want this to come. You're just like, I'm going to make the best decision I can with what is coming out.
Yeah, and as far as the expansion?
So for me, the expansion, I think, solved a little bit of an issue that I had with the base game, which is with all of these goals that you have, if you're not able to get to them, you kind of just lose those points. And what this does is it allows you to trade in the tokens that you would use for these goals and use it to get a seed, which can be pretty powerful and have you get a lot of points, hopefully, at the end. You know, you can use it to top off a lot of your trees, which you're using these to stack to get points for each of your cards, and even placing down the cubes, that's 3 points for you. So I do think that is a really, really great way to mitigate what's over here, because trying to get all 4 goals can be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
3 is pretty good. You should at least be able to get 2. But if you can't get all 4, at least you can do something else with that token.
Yeah, I think for me the expansion is into a bit of a mixed range. This 6-player for me, I'm going to break down the various aspects it adds. The 6-player for me is not really a factor. This is a game that I prefer anyway playing at 3 or 4 players. I mean, even 2 players is totally satisfying. For me, the 5th player rarely happens, and so the 6th player just doesn't help or add to it for me.
Honestly, this is one I haven't played at higher player counts, but because everyone is at least getting an action, I do feel like it would play better at not better at higher player counts,
well
but play good. Yeah, as opposed to trying to play something else that might be too much.
Yeah, it does work at high player counts. I just don't benefit from the 6-player expansion personally. The extra action cards that I like. I like having more cards of all the types. Earth is a game that has giant stacks full of cards. You're not missing anything, but having more variety, just more, even the starting cards or the gold cards, all of that. I like having more cards in games like this, and this is no exception. So it's more of a good thing, but not anything particularly new. And then the new seed mechanic, that one I have found it depends on the game. There are times, like similar to what you said, where there's times where you're trying to get that 5th card you need for one of these goals over here, and then being able to use the seed to either get it earlier to lock on those points, or just to get it at all. That can be a fun little thing. But then there's times where the puzzles I'm working toward, I don't really need them, and I found it is a good mechanic to have, this whole new seeds element. It's a good mechanic to have, but not one that I always benefit from strongly. So it's a nice quality of life improvement to the game. That's kind of where I am on the expansion. Now, rating-wise on the expansion, I'll give my rating on the expansion, just so you know what I do, is I used to rate the expansion kind of relative to the full experience. And then I started changing my ratings that I rate the expansion based on what it brings to the base game, which means you could have a game, it's an interesting little thingy, you could have a game that might be a 4 out of 5, and the expansion might be lower rating than the game, even though the full picture is higher, if that makes sense. I'm rating kind of what it brings to the picture. For me, Earth Abundance is going to be a 3.5 out of 5. It is a good expansion, it adds new cards, it adds a new mechanic. For those who care about it, it adds a 6th player. I guess I would have wanted to see more interesting things being added to this, and I felt it was kind of like, I felt it's almost like a little modular expansion, like a little, here's a few extra stuff, as opposed to any big changes to the gameplay. That said, you don't necessarily need big changes, it's a good game, but I think that as much as there's nice things in this expansion you can benefit from, I also think it's one you can probably skip on and not feel like you're missing out on that much.
Yeah, I would say I'm doing it as a whole, especially because I didn't really play Earth too much until I played Abundance. But I was between 3.5 and a 4, and for me, I was leaning toward 4 if I rated it alone. And then when I think of it compared to other card games that are more satisfying with tableau building, then I was like, I would give it a 3.5. So I think I'm somewhere between there after I spend more time with it and feel, again, I really want to feel that synergy.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want to see how good that and satisfying that feels. And yeah, it'll sit somewhere in there for me.
Very good. That's basically our review of Earth Abundance. One thing I should note that I neglected to mention is in addition to all the things the expansion adds, if you do check out the crowdfunding campaign, I believe they also have all kinds of deluxe-fied extras, like new tokens and stuff like that. I don't know the full details. I think these new tokens are little mini trees. There's little trees on top of them as well.
Disclaimer for this video, these are from Tinkertown Games. These are deluxe and not part of... They're not associated with the game at all.
Not associated with Inside Up. Yeah. That's basically it. That is your Earth Abundance review. Until next time, I'm Alex Rackle from Board Game Co.
I'm Professor Meg.
And have a good one.
Bye. Happy Earth Day.